Brought to you by Nissan Juke.
Come on, City! Aguero!
Manchester City was established in 1894, but the club's roots go back a lot earlier than that. In fact, it sort of goes back to the 1860s and 1870s. A church was built in East Manchester, the Gorton area, and that church eventually started to add activities for the local community to try and build a community spirit. And then in 1880, the first reported football game was played. From that moment, the club really started to develop. By 1887, it became Ardwick Association Football Club. It joined the Football League in 1892, so both Newton Heath, which is Manchester United, and Ardwick joined the league that year. But both Manchester teams struggled, and in 1894, Ardwick financially collapsed. Out of the ashes of Ardwick, a guy called Joshua Palmer. He was a sort of larger-than-life character. He was the sort of guy who made things happen. In a pub in the centre of Manchester, the Football League had its meeting, and Joshua Palmer stood up and made this incredible speech, basically saying that a city like Manchester needed a football club. Now, Newton Heath, Manchester United, still existed, but it was called Newton Heath. The idea here was that Manchester City would be the team to represent Manchester, and that's how he put it across. And so from 1894, Manchester City was in the Football League, was established, and then in 1922, they announced they were going to move to what became Main Road, and then it really did start to grow. The 1960s was City's most successful spell, really. Joe Mercer became the City manager in 1965, and he brought in Malcolm Allison, who was a visionary coach, and the two of them then transformed City completely.
Two different people completely. Joe was steeped in the game, and he was an old sage, you know, he got a quip and an answer for everything. Malcolm was a dynamic coach. He was a top class coach, as good as any around today. About 2 weeks before I signed for City, Malcolm came to see me in a nightclub in Bolton. And he said, I'd like to sign you. He said, we watch you a lot and we think you'll score a lot of goals for us, and we've got a good team, and all that. He sold me the club, and so off we went.
Joe Mercer always called him the final piece of the jigsaw, and from the moment Freddie Lee arrived until the end of the season, City were incredible.
We had a marvellous side. It was Colin Bell, Mike Summerby, Neil Young and Tony Coleman. We played with a five-man forward line, but they all filled in for one another. We trained very hard on the running track and in the gymnasium, and as well as being real good footballers, we were very fit and strong and powerful, and we just blew people away, you know. When we actually won the championship at St James's Park, the last match of the season, we had to go there, and we had to win, and we won 4-3, and it was a fantastic game. We got in the dressing room, and it was a funny atmosphere. We were trying to enjoy ourselves, but nobody in that side had ever won anything before. And it took a week or so to settle in.
They got promoted in '66, they won the league in '68, the FA Cup in 1969, they won the League Cup in 1970, and the Cup Winners' Cup in 1970. I mean, to consider where they'd been, that was an incredible success.
But this homecoming, well, it surpassed anything that's ever I've experienced in all my life, and I'm sure the lads would want me to express their fantastic appreciation for all this marvellous support.
Everybody in the country watched it. Every TV, radio, everything was absorbed by the cup final.
City were truly perceived as a glamour club, you know, a typical early 70s successful club. And Joe Mercer has this sort of dignified older presence, and Malcolm Allison is this ambitious, coach, it worked. It was magic.
It was a big club. It always has been a big club, but never big in achievements. The only problem was Malcolm wanted to get on, and he wanted to be the manager, and he and Joe had this little bit of a dispute, and eventually it widened, and in the end it cost the club, other trophies.
From that point on, rather than the club building and developing, it had some high points, but the investment sort of started to slow down.
Okay, see you later. Well done. Sorry.
Over time, the stadium lost its way. So from being a 60-odd thousand capacity stadium at the start of the 70s, by the 80s, the capacity was dropping down to 40, then it was 30.
Peter Swales made the decision to say, well, if you want any players, you're going to have to sell some. And he sold me to Derby and Mike Summerby to Burnley. And that was his big mistake. If he'd not sold Mike Summerby and myself, City would have won the league that year.
Come on, City!
The ambition seems to be not to win trophies, but to sort of just survive. Now, there were some great moments in the 70s, but in general, the club was starting to make mistakes.
Just before I left, I went to see him. And I said, this club's achieved more in the last 6, 7, 8 years than it's ever achieved. And where are we now? We're still training on a grammar school or a borough facilities. It shows the club is not run right. We should have had our own training facility with a big entrance saying Manchester City Football Club etched in gold. What was it? Nothing.
The owners were very ambitious on all fronts. Building the academy, the brief that we had was to create something that would be best in class in world football.
The whole design is around aspiration and development and growth. It's a learning environment, the academy, and a lot of the stuff is about that player's journey and what they learn along the way. So this is our mini stadium. It's 6,500 capacity, both seated and standing. And it's where our under-23 men's team, our women's team, and the key FA Youth Cup games are played by our under-18 teams. And I believe it's the only one in the country that is dedicated to youth football.
The change since I came here 5 years ago has been enormous. We've got the benefit of having a lot of space where coaches can actually coach properly on big areas rather than 3 teams fitting on half a pitch sometimes. The mini stadium and the 2 pitches to our left here are under soil heating, and that's good because it keeps the programme fluid and you don't have to make too many changes. As you'll see, most of our pitches this side are floodlit, and then we've got 2 artificial pitches as well as our indoor. It gives the boys an opportunity to play on all different types of surfaces, which they're gonna have to do at some time in their career. We've got some real special talents, I think, within the academy now. It's incredible to see the way that they're playing at 8 years old, and it's exciting to know what we could get when they're 18.
From the ages of 9 to 16, the black boot policy is practiced, because I don't want the boys getting carried away about what colour boots you've got. It really is about how can we make you the best player we possibly can. They've got to be polite, they've got to speak to everybody exactly the same, and they've got to work hard ultimately. The pitch immediately behind me now is our community pitch, and working with the community is an integral part of being at Manchester City. It is a community football club, and it's blue in true City fashion. The academy is front-facing, and this was really important to our owners as well, is that the academy is right at the forefront of the whole building. So this is where the players would come of a morning. Corridors showing the history of what the club's done and the players that have come through the academy system. There's key messages left, so the players can constantly remind themselves of what this is all about. Before you go into that gym and you're crossing the line, are you ready to perform? We split this into 3 arenas. There's a cardio area, there's stuff for movement, and there's the traditional weight area. If you look onto the wall there, for everyone to see, is the
the iconic 93-20 quote, which is the time that Sergio scored that goal to win the Premier League. And the message there is never give up and every second counts.
There's a soul about what we're doing, and I think it's important that people understand, you know, where this club originated from, and this is what you should never stray from. You know, this is who we are.
The 80s were a desperate, you know, City was skin. City got relegated twice and they changed manager after them. But then there was a brief period at the end of the 80s and early 90s where things seemed to improve.
It was a strange feeling looking at going and moving to Manchester City. It was still a team in the bottom three, tension was high. Not quite the same as Arsenal. You know, at Arsenal we had our kit all ironed and done for us every day. At Man City I had a kind of a loincloth that Tarzan wouldn't have worn, rough and old, and I used to get rashes all down the inside of my legs. I used to have to bring it home and wash it myself, and that was the Man City I joined. Man City made me as a player. I'd scored 20 league goals. I was the first player since Franny Lee to do that in the top flight.
Quinn with a flick! Niall Quinn has scored!
They were founder members of the Premier League in '92, and things seemed to be okay. But then there was another takeover in '94 when Francis Lee took over the club, and although he transformed the club to some extent, because of his lack of investment in the years before, the club wasn't in a great state.
It was almost as if the second he put his name forward that he was going to take on Peter Swales, he was going to try and get the club, it was like, that's it, it's Manchester City, our hero is back, and you know, success is absolutely guaranteed now. But football, of course, isn't like that.
The club was in such dire straits because they had to build a new stand and they hadn't got the money to do it. God knows where all the money went, but it was just an impossible scene.
What happened, which didn't help Francis in many ways, is Manchester United just started to rumble under Alex Ferguson.
And now Cantona's on the ball. For Giggs. Curls playing him onside. Unbelievable! And Manchester City, certainly the heads of their supporters droop again.
Well, it shouldn't have been inevitable. There is a feeling of inevitability about the relegation in '96.
Oh, we didn't get enough points. Yeah, it was down to the last match against Liverpool.
It's the final day of the season and 5 sides are fighting to stay in the top flight. Oh, here's McManaman. And it's sliced in by Lomas. It's an own goal and City are behind. Cross in here towards Simons. And Manchester City have hope.
The score was 2-2 at the time. We need another goal. The feeling of the dread that was building up over the period of time for it to culminate in relegation. It was just an awful time.
There was no finance in the club. It was completely bankrupt. If we hadn't got involved, they got relegated that season anyway. Who knows where it might have finished up. It might have finished up a lot worse off than what we were.
By 1998, City were in the third tier of football, looking as if they're going nowhere, playing teams like Macclesfield and Stockport and Bury, teams that were, as far as City fans were concerned, you know, way down the pecking order, and getting beat. When City were reborn, if you like, in the late 90s, Francis Lee had sort of moved aside. There was a change in control of the club. Fortunately, Joe Royal managed to sort of resurrect the club. They managed to get this general sort of team spirit going. Had City not been promoted in 1999 through the playoffs, the move to the new stadium probably wouldn't have happened. City got promoted again straight after. Now, to be fair, that was a bit of a promotion too soon. They got relegated again and Joe Rowe was the manager, he got dismissed, and Kevin Keegan was brought in. Some of the best football we'd played for a generation was played under Kevin Keegan. The promotion was achieved in 2002. Because of the agreement for the stadium, 2002-03 season was going to be the last at Main Road, so that was a really emotional season. We're now at Main Road. This was the site of City's ground from 1923 to 2003. For a lot of fans, this is City, this is home, this is where it all began, if you like. And we're actually at what was the centre spot, and they've named it after City's famous groundsman, Stan Gibson. And so it's called Gibson's Green. The whole area has been redeveloped and built on, and it's mostly housing now. The last day at Main Road was pretty emotional. You didn't want to leave. And the game itself was an absolute letdown. We lost to Southampton.
And I feel sorry for the supporters. They've been really good to us. So it's a bit sad that we didn't win this one because they deserve it.
I'm pleased for them that this place has, ended in some way, because I think where we're going is so much better.
It was the end of an era, but it's the beginning of a new era, and it's moving forward. We're at the Etihad Stadium. City moved here in 2003. And it's our home now. As far as we're concerned, this is it. This is where we belong. When we first moved in, it was very grey. And then after the takeover, people running the club almost immediately started putting images up. Bring a bit of life, bring a bit of colour to place, and just give it that City feel. They tried to sort of show that it's one club. If you're a young academy player and you see a picture up there of Vincent Kompany, that inspires you. But how great to see a picture up there that's your teammate. That's just as inspiring. Same with the girls. They can see Steph Houghton has her place on the wall.
Before we brought the women's team in-house, it wasn't even semi-professional, it was amateur, it was a hobby for the players.
They're part of the fabric of this club. They train within the facility, they play in the mini stadium. They get all the support and resources that any of our teams would enjoy.
It's naive to think you can buy a winning team. We have a way of working and almost a philosophy, a methodology, a formula to be successful. And our women's team is no different.
In every aspect, we've tried to professionalise it, and I think that that's important for women's football.
Yeah, it's been amazing to do the double, to win the cup, to win the league, but in the way that we've done it, we're deserving winners of both, and it's just fantastic, to bring this success to this club.
Coming here to this club, we knew that was going to be a process, and we knew it was going to take a long time, but I think to be winning a double in the third year was unbelievable from everybody at the club, and hopefully we can win some more.
We have no apologies to make for giving our players the opportunity to live the life of a professional athlete. I don't think we're going to see a team that is semi-professional or amateur win the WSL 1 anymore. The level's been raised.
It's inspiring young girls to play football, and City are now the best supported women's team in England. It's that idea of looking at a football club differently. There are 2 years that are pretty critical in the late 2000 period. Once 2007, when the club was first taken over by Thaksin Shinawatra, who was the former Thai Prime Minister. Sven Goran Eriksson became the manager, and we started the season quite well, and it was exciting. But as the season progressed, lots of rumours circulated about whether Thaksin could actually afford the club. And then the 2008-9 season started, and then on transfer deadline day, the story started to emerge that City were going to be taken over. The Bino signing, that was absolutely incredible. It was like, what? What's happened in these last few years?
Instant hero! Robinho scores on debut for Manchester City!
I got a call one day in September from Gary Cluck, who was the chief executive of City at the time, and he said, "You're going to love this. You're going to meet Khaldoon Al-Mubrak. He will be the new chairman. He represents Sheikh Mansour, the owner, and he wants to talk about this."
The chairman has a definitive goal of making Manchester City one of the world's great clubs. We're on a 10-year plan. Success is going to come to this club.
I came away thinking, this is incredible. These guys mean business. They were investing in the stadium. They were investing in the squad. But it's not just that. They're investing in the local communities.
Here at City in the Community, we use football as the hook to engage all the various groups. Working with older males was an area which we were weak on, and walking football ticked the box.
I saw the advert on TV, I came down here, and it's been fantastic.
I'd lost my wife in April, and I was just sort of sat there doing not a lot of anything, like, you know. I hadn't played football for like 30 years, so I thought it'd be great. So I came down, and I've loved it from the first minute, honestly.
It's very inspiring. It's great to see so many people doing so well, sort of internally, externally, through the great work of City in the Community.
Tuesdays and Fridays is my week. Honestly, it's done wonders for me.
It's an investment in people. It's investment in an area that needs it. And when they start doing things like that, you start to think they're approaching this in a completely different way. But one thing that became apparent within a very short period of time, this was about transforming the way a football club operated. The rumours started to come about this idea of creating sister clubs, and the City Football Group became prominent then. So Manchester City was one element of the City Football Group.
It was kind of formulated around about 2013. Everybody's fully aware of the Premier League, but the emergence of the A-League, I think, is very interesting. Clearly the emergence of the MLS is very exciting.
To me, it was an incredible project to be a part of together with Manchester City. It's a family of clubs that you know, are ambitious and want to win trophies.
What we're able to do is have the learnings over a long period of time from Manchester and implement them here. Really, we just want to be able to achieve the best that we possibly can, and I really think the environment that we have here enables us to do that.
The academy is growing, so we have 2 teams currently. That'll grow to 6 teams.
You know, to finish second in the Eastern Conference of the MLS last year, it was only our second year in operation, was amazing. We won our first trophy in Melbourne this year. That felt like what it was like in 2010 when we won the FA Cup, which was the club's first trophy for 35 years here in Manchester. The beauty of it is that, you know, we're creating these stories every day.
Silva, Dzeko scores! 2-2! 4 minutes to save themselves! 4 minutes to find their crown! Balotelli! Aguero! Staggering! Just staggering! He's won the league with 90 seconds of stoppage time to play! It's just the most extraordinary scenario you could have dreamt of!
The last few years have been great because we've won league titles, we've won FA Cup, we've won League Cups. The ambition now is to keep sustaining that all of the time.
To see them winning the league, you know, the breakthrough, the game against QPR, I have to pinch myself at times.
I think that we work hard every day to just make sure that we keep progressing that and it doesn't stand still.
Appointing Pep Guardiola was a big statement.
This guy is obviously the best manager in the world. Every player he's played for, I've not heard one of them criticise him as a manager.
When you have opportunity to work with the best managers, it's something, you know, really special.
I think all the games we play very good, and you can see the difference between our team to this year and our team last year.
De Bruyne has nicked it, and De Bruyne scores! First blood Guardiola, 15 minutes into his first derby.
He's very intense and demanding of us as players, which is that extra factor of us wanting to do well for him.
The challenge is try to do, I think, to do our best and win the games. Here they want to achieve a step forward, and that's why it's our challenge here in Manchester City.
Sterling, forces gathering in the middle. Sterling! He's a one-man wrecking force.
When you have a team, when the manager speaks and the whole team buys into it, that's the most important thing, and that's what's happening now, and that's a credit to him.
Aguero! A thumping finish!
So I would like to see the team is getting better, and when it's not going well, and prepare for the next season, to be clear and smart to what you have to do to getting better. City's most successful manager still is Joe Mercer from late 60s, early 70s. Everyone's view is that Pep will eclipse that, but not only will he eclipse it, but that he will take this club to a position where it's never been at.
I think you have to really commend the owners of Manchester City for understanding and respecting the traditions of the past and using them to incur a better way forward.
It's quite unbelievable from where it was and where it is today. It's got the wherewithal, it's got the facilities, it's got everything going for it. I just think it's an amazing achievement.
I think we've got a real identity, a spirit in which we play the game, and a methodology and a real sense of philosophy in how to play the game. The 130-year journey has been incredible, but the last decade, it's gone at such a pace. And I think people at times find it difficult to keep up. Anything's possible, and that's for the men's team, the women's team, for the community, for Manchester as a city, and for supporters. We could go anywhere.